Why is this important? Well, when we're going to go under the water, like we just discussed in question number 1, we're going to have an increase of pressure around us, which means we have to equalize our air spaces that we have inside of our body. So where do we have these air spaces? Well, we have what we call sinuses, and the sinuses are behind our face. And connected to those sinuses, we got these eustachian, if I can pronounce it correctly, eustachian tubes that go to our ears, and they connect to our eardrum that we have in our ear. We also have an airspace right here that goes down to the biggest airspace, which is our lungs. We also have a little bit of air in between our face and our mask, and we also have to equalize that, but that is something we're going to explain a little bit later. For now, let's focus on the ears mostly, because that's where you feel the pressure first, and that's what we need to equalize first. If you wonder, by the way, if you need to equalize your arms or toes during a scuba dive, no you don't. You know, that can't get squeezed in because we don't have any air spaces there. So only when we have our air spaces is really where the water wants to go to on our first scuba dives. So let's say tomorrow you're going to do your first dive. Picture your first dive and you're on the surface, and let's say that you're using a descent line to go down, so you're holding onto this line, you deflate at BCD, and now we want you to start equalizing when we're going down. And why? Is because if this is your eardrum, this is the outside of your ear, and then here you got your eustachian tube. The moment we go down under the water will flow into your ear, into your sort of ear canal on the outside, and it's going to start putting a little bit of pressure on that eardrum, and it's going to start bending it a little bit. This is not bad for your eardrum, and you might not even feel this yet. So this is really in those first few like centimeters, starts happening, and yeah, you kind of go like, oh, this is fine, you know, easy. I don't have any issues with my ears. But if you're going to go down more and more without equalizing, which you shouldn't do, then what's going to happen is that the water is going to press it in more and more and more until you start feeling, oh, there's something in my ear. And then more and more it becomes uncomfortable, and if you keep going and going, yeah, the eardrum at one point might get damaged. So I know this sounds a bit scary, but don't worry, it's very, very easy to solve, and that is by equalizing our ears. So how do we equalize it? Well, basically what we're trying to do is to create the same pressure inside as we have outside. And that is where our rear lungs come into play as well. So what we can do, if when you're going down on the water flows in, bends in your eardrum a bit, just do version number A, which we also call the Malsalva maneuver. Basically what you do, you pinch your nose, you breathe out, but you close your mouth also, so it cannot actually go out. Then the air will go through your nose, but it cannot go out here as well. I know I speak a bit funny like this. Huh? And then what happens, it gets pushed to our eustachian tubes, to our eardrum. And then the air goes like this, so when we're going down, it goes like this, and then whoop, and you press it back like that. This doesn't have to be hard. Actually, doing it hard is really bad because you might now damage something else. So just gently. That's kind of how it works. Not hard at all. Now the trick is though to do it as much as you can. Okay, so you go all the way until you're down to where you have to be. You can also use a different technique if this doesn't work, and that is to wiggle your jaw like this and move your head maybe from side to side. Actually, you can try it right now if you want to. I know, no one's looking, right? It looks a bit weird, but you just go. Can you feel it? Can you feel your ears squeaking? Right, I can feel it. For me, it's not the most preferred way of equalizing my ears. Most people, like myself, we just love the first one, which is the Malsalva maneuver. Just works so well. You can actually try that now as well, but always be careful, especially on land, to never do it too hard. So just very gently, just to see if you feel something. If you don't feel something or only one ear, don't worry too. It's probably because you have a little bit of congestion blocking your sinuses or your eustachian tube. So make sure you blow your nose before you do this, and make sure that you don't have a cold or that you're sick before you go scuba diving. If you're not sure, check up with a physician just before you do your dive. Works fantastically. Now, if you have a feeling on your first dive that it's, or you have to still go into your confined water session and it's just not working, just talk to your instructor. I know you sometimes feel like you might be, special or something weird going on with you because everybody else can equalize. but trust me, many people have issues with equalizing in the beginning, but because it's kind of like a feeling and it gets better and better over time. You really start to feel exactly when you have to equalize. And everyone is different as well. So if everybody in the group can equalize except for you, that's perfectly normal. I pretty much have never, I think, taught an open water course where everybody could equalize. There was always 1, 2, or 3 people having some issues. And then in the end, sometimes they were even better at equalizing than the others because they sort of focused on it more. So don't worry at all. Only when you're really sick, then it just doesn't work whatever you do. And then it's time to stop and then just continue your course or your diving at another time. Anytime you're in doubt, just ask your instructor or ask a dive physician. So I just mentioned that you should equalize all the time when you're going down until you get to the depth that you want to go and then continue your dive and look at cool stuff. But I know you guys are going to be excited and that's important, but what we see a lot with new divers is that when they're going down in the first few meters, let's say up to 3 meters, they're so focused on this equalizing. So they're holding the line, you're equalizing and just, oh yeah, it works. Okay, this is weird. It's kind of working. This is good. So it's all good, but then after a few meters, you look down and whoa, and suddenly there's this beautiful reef and you see all these beautiful fish and you're going, wow, and you want to go there. And then we see our students getting a bit too excited and they might now go down without equalizing, and then of course you're going to feel it. If it happens or this happens and you start going, oh, what's happening to my ears? Just stop. You can never make it worse when you stop, so that's good to know. And then signal your body and your instructor, dive master, whoever is around you, that you have a problem with your ears. So this is the signal, I have a problem with my ears. At that point, what you need to do to solve it is just to go up a little bit and do so slowly. Probably your instructor or dive master will tell you to go up as well when you give him the signal that there's something wrong with your ears. Alright, so just very gently and slowly you go up. But the cool thing is you don't have to go up all the way back up to the surface. If you could equalize at 3 meters and you can't equalize at 4 meters, you just go up just very slowly to 3 meters again. And what happens is, so for example, the reason why we can't equalize, we call this a squeeze, is when the air pressure outside is more than the pressure inside, and it's too much. So you went to this point and you just went, it doesn't work. Remember, never do it too hard. So by going up gently, back to around 3 meters, your eardrum starts bending back by itself. At 3 meters it was equalized, so there you just go, it works again. And then just keep doing it all the time and then you're gonna be fine. If it really doesn't work, you can go up a little bit more to try that out. And in very rare occasions, it just doesn't work at all. And then you might have to go back up all the way to the surface. But this is usually then more because again, you have congestion in your sinuses that you didn't know about before. And your instructor will probably ask you to blow your nose at the surface, get all that stuff out, and then give it another go. But again, there's a difference between having a little bit of congestion in there that you just need to get rid of, or having a cold and being sick. So if your instructor feels like that you might be too sick at that point, he might then ask you to cancel the dive and then continue on another dive when you feel better. Sometimes we see students forcing it, which means that they see the other group going, they feel pressured because they're the only one that are slow and having issues with the ears, or maybe just really want to complete this course and you're on a holiday and you have to leave and you're just under this pressure and you just think like, you know what, it doesn't hurt that much, but it feels really uncomfortable. I'm just going to push it through. No, this is really important that you don't do this because you can damage that eardrum and then you cannot dive for a very long time. Sometimes you just need one night of good rest to be able to continue the next day. So whenever you feel something, let your instructor know. He will give you the best advice. Maybe check yourself up with a doctor if you need to, and then continue your diving. But never, ever, ever force equalizing. By the way, if you want to learn more about equalizing your ears, I actually made a full video with some of the best tricks that you can use, way more than I just discussed, to equalize your ears, especially good for beginner divers. So after this video, check out my video section and scroll down or use the search bar and then look for my how to equalize your ears while scuba diving to watch that video afterwards.